The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, and Velrath felt his crystalline body growing heavier with each passing moment. The pressure was uncomfortable, like someone slowly placing weights on his chest. Next to him, Threxus adjusted his 6 arms nervously, trying to find a comfortable position in the cramped human-sized seat. "This gravity is absurd," Quilara said through the telepathic link she shared with the other alien visitors. Her voice in their minds sounded strained. How do they live like this every day? Velrath watched through the window as they approached the military base. Earth looked primitive compared to the gleaming cities of the crystalline Imperium. The buildings were small and simple. The vehicles moved on wheels instead of hovering. Everything seemed so basic, so backward. "Remember why we are here?" Velrath said, trying to project confidence he did not entirely feel. "The Galactic Council requires us to complete this exchange program. We will show these humans what real warriors look like. 3 months, then we return home with stories about how we trained the newest species in the galaxy." The other aliens nodded, but Threxus calculated the gravity readings again on his data pad. His mathematical mind could not accept the numbers. 1 full gravity unit. The humans lived in this every moment of their lives. By his calculations, they should all be flat on the ground, unable to move. Yet the data showed they walked upright, ran, even jumped in this crushing environment. The ship landed with a heavy thunk that made Velrath's crystalline structure vibrate painfully. The door opened and the air rushed in. It was thick, heavy with moisture and strange smells. Velrath took his first step onto Earth soil and nearly fell. The weight was incredible. Each movement required 3 times the effort he was used to. A human in military uniform stood waiting for them. He was average height for his species, with dark hair and a relaxed posture that seemed wrong for someone standing in such heavy gravity. His smile was friendly and completely unsuited for a military setting. "Welcome to Earth," the human said cheerfully. "My name is Daehyun. I will be your guide and training partner for the next 3 months." Velrath studied the human carefully. Daehyun looked soft compared to crystalline warriors. His body was covered in flexible skin instead of hard protective armor. He had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and no visible natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no telepathic abilities. Just a simple biped standing casually in gravity that made Velrath want to lie down and rest. "We are honored to participate in this exchange," Velrath said formally, speaking through his translation device. "We look forward to learning from your military traditions." Daehyun laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, you will definitely learn something. Come on, let me show you to your quarters. Dinner is in 2 hours and you will want to rest before tomorrow." "What happens tomorrow?" Quilara asked, her telepathy reaching out to scan the human's surface thoughts. She found something unexpected. Daehyun was thinking about food. Not strategy, not evaluation of the alien visitors, just food. Something called kimchi stew, and whether the cafeteria would have the good side dishes. "Tomorrow we start basic training," Daehyun said simply. "Just regular morning stuff, nothing too hard for the first day." The quarters were small but functional. Each alien had a room adjusted for their species' needs. Velrath's room had crystalline charging stations. Threxus had multiple workstations for his many arms. Quilara had telepathic dampening fields so she could rest without hearing other minds. That night, they gathered to discuss their situation. "The human is weak," Threxus said, his 6 arms moving in gestures of dismissal. "I have calculated his muscle mass, bone density, and physical capabilities. By all measurements, he should be unable to function in this gravity, yet he moves as if it weighs nothing." "I scanned his mind," Quilara added. "There is no deception. He genuinely thinks tomorrow will be easy. Either he is foolish or we are missing something important." Velrath activated his recording device. "We will document everything. The Galactic Council will want a full report. These humans are new to the galaxy, and we are the first to train with them. Our observations will be valuable." None of them slept well. The gravity pressed down on them even in their beds. Quilara's telepathy picked up dreams from humans in other parts of the base. They were dreaming about normal things: family, food, entertainment. Not the dreams of warriors preparing for battle. It was disturbing. Morning came too early. A loud alarm sounded at 5 in the morning, Earth time. Velrath dragged his crystalline body out of bed, each movement requiring concentration. Threxus needed help from 2 of his arms to lift the other 4. Quilara's telepathy was fuzzy from exhaustion. Daehyun met them outside, looking exactly as fresh as he had the previous day. He was wearing simple exercise clothing and had a water bottle in one hand. Good morning. Ready for PT? He asked brightly. What is PT? Threxus asked. Physical training. We start every day with a run, some exercises, then breakfast. Standard stuff. The word run made Velrath's crystalline structure ache just thinking about it. How far do we run? Just 5 kilometers today. Taking it easy since it is your first day. Daehyun stretched his arms over his head casually. Usually we do 10, but Haiyuan said to go light on you all while you adjust. 5 kilometers. In this gravity. On their first day. And this was light, they started running. Daehyun set a pace that seemed reasonable for about 30 seconds. Then Velrath realized that Daehyun was not getting tired, not even breathing hard. He was actually talking about the weather and asking questions about their home planets. So on your world, Velrath, you said the gravity is 0.3? That must be nice. Like floating everywhere. Do you have sports? I bet you could jump really high. Velrath could not answer. All his concentration was focused on putting one leg in front of the other. His crystalline body was developing microfractures from the impact of each step. Threxus had fallen behind, his 6 arms pumping desperately as his body fought against the weight. Quilara had stopped completely, sitting on the ground with her head in her hands. Daehyun jogged back to them. You okay? We are only at the 2-kilometer mark. Want to take a quick break? How? Threxus gasped, his translator barely functioning through his exhaustion. Are you not dying? Daehyun looked genuinely confused. From what? We are just jogging. Light cardio, you know. Gets the blood moving. He took a sip from his water bottle. Tell you what, let us walk the rest. We can build up your endurance over time. They walked the remaining 3 kilometers. It took an hour. Daehyun walked backward most of the way, chatting happily about his hometown and his family's farm. By the time they returned to base, all 3 aliens needed medical attention. Haiyuan, the human commander overseeing the program, reviewed the medical reports with concern.
Maybe we should adjust the training schedule, she said to Daehyun. This was the adjusted schedule, Daehyun replied.
We already cut it in half. That evening, the aliens gathered in Velrath's quarters. They were too tired to return to their own rooms. I am submitting a formal complaint, Velrath said. This training is unreasonable. I calculated the energy expenditure, Threxus said weakly. Daehyun should have burned through his entire caloric reserves in the first kilometer. Yet he acted as if it was nothing. His mind is wrong, Quilara whispered. When I scan him, all I find is contentment. He is not suffering. He is not pushing through pain. He genuinely finds this easy. Through the window, they could see Daehyun in the cafeteria. His tray was piled high with food. Rice, meat, several small dishes of vegetables, and a large bowl of red stew that steamed aggressively. He sat with other human soldiers, laughing and eating with obvious enjoyment. How much is he eating? Threxus wondered aloud. That is enough food for 3 of us. He said that was a light dinner, Quilara reported, picking up the stray thought from Daehyun's mind. He is thinking about whether to get seconds. They watched in silence as Daehyun finished his meal, went back for more rice and stew, ate that too, and then grabbed what looked like a frozen dessert on his way out. We have made a terrible mistake, Velrath said quietly. These humans are not primitive. They are something else entirely. Should we quit the program? Threxus asked. Velrath's crystalline body flickered with determination despite the pain. No, we are warriors. We will endure. How hard can 3 months be? None of them knew the answer. But as they watched Daehyun disappear into the darkness, still moving with that same easy grace despite the crushing gravity, they all felt the same cold understanding settling into their minds. They were not here to teach humans. They were here to survive them. Day 3 began the same way as Day 1 and Day 2. The alarm at 5 in the morning. The crushing weight of gravity pressing down on every part of their bodies. The cheerful voice of Daehyun calling them to morning training. Velrath had stopped recording his observations after the first day. His translation device had too many entries of him simply saying words that his people would consider curses. Threxus had given up calculating the humans' impossible physical capabilities. The numbers made no sense, so he stopped checking. Quilara had learned to keep her telepathy turned off around humans. Their minds were too peaceful for warriors, and it made her uncomfortable. Today we do the obstacle course, Daehyun announced as they gathered in the gray pre-dawn light. He handed each of them a harness and helmet. It is fun. You will like it. The obstacle course stretched across a huge field. There were walls to climb, ropes to swing on, nets to crawl under, and pools of muddy water to cross. It looked like something designed to torture people, but Daehyun called it fun. "I will go first to show you how it works," Daehyun said. He stretched briefly, then started running. What happened next made Velrath question everything he knew about biology. Daehyun moved through the course like water flowing downhill. He climbed walls without slowing down. He swung across gaps with perfect timing. He crawled under barbed wire so fast it looked like he was sliding on ice. When he reached a wall that was 3 times his height, he simply ran up it, grabbed the top, and pulled himself over. The entire course took him 4 minutes and 32 seconds. He was not even breathing hard when he jogged back to them. "Your turn," he said with that same friendly smile. "Take your time. First time is always the hardest." Velrath went first because he was the team leader. The first obstacle was a simple wall only twice his height. In normal gravity, on his home planet, he could have jumped it easily. Here it might as well have been a mountain. He tried to climb, but his crystalline fingers could not grip the smooth surface. He fell twice before Daehyun showed him a technique using his whole body weight. It took Velrath 43 minutes to complete the course. His crystalline body was covered in cracks. 2 of his fingers had completely shattered and would need a full day in the charging station to repair. He collapsed at the end, unable to move. Threxis did worse. His 6 arms, usually his greatest advantage, became a liability. He could not coordinate them properly in the heavy gravity. He got tangled in the nets. He fell into the mud 3 times. At one point, all 6 arms were stuck in the barbed wire and Daehyun had to help free him. It took him 1 hour and 6 minutes. Quilara used her telepathy to guide her movements, reading the course ahead through Daehyun's memories of running it. It helped, but not enough. The physical demands were too much. Her legs gave out at the halfway point. She refused to quit, so she crawled the rest of the way. 1 hour and 22 minutes. Daehyun sat with them afterward, offering water and energy bars. "Good effort," he said encouragingly. "You all finished. That is what matters. Tomorrow you will be faster." "How?" Velrath gasped, his voice crackling through his damaged translator. "Did you do it so quickly?" Daehyun shrugged. "Practice, I guess. I have been running this course since basic training. Maybe 300 times now? You get used to it. 300 times. Through that torture course. On purpose, why?" Quilara asked. "Why would anyone do this 300 times? It is good exercise. Plus, if you get a fast enough time, you get an extra dessert at lunch." Daehyun checked his watch. "Speaking of lunch, we should head to the cafeteria soon. I am starving." The cafeteria was full of humans, all eating and talking like they had not just spent the morning in physical agony. Daehyun loaded his tray with rice. Some kind of spicy rice cake covered in red sauce, fried fish, soup, and at least 6 small dishes of various vegetables and preserved foods. The aliens took their specialized nutrition packs to a corner table and watched. "He is eating enough for 4 people again," Threxis observed. "His mind says he is still hungry," Quilara added. "He is thinking about whether to get seconds." Velrath carefully sipped his mineral solution, trying to restore his damaged crystalline structure. "I have been thinking about something Haiyuan said yesterday. She mentioned that Daehyun is average for his unit. Average, not exceptional. Not the best. Average." They sat in silence, processing this information. If Daehyun was average, what were the exceptional humans like? Day 5 brought combat training. Daehyun led them to a padded room where other humans were practicing fighting techniques. The movements were brutal and direct. No elegant forms, no ceremonial aspects, just efficient violence. "We will start with basic sparring," Daehyun explained. "Light contact only. The goal is to learn, not to hurt each other." He demonstrated with another human soldier, a woman named Min Seo who moved even faster than Daehyun. They exchanged punches and kicks in a blur of motion that made it hard to follow. When they stopped, both were smiling like they had been playing a game. "Okay, Threxis, want to try with me?" Daehyun asked. Threxis approached cautiously. He had 6 arms to Daehyun's 2. He had longer reach. He had faster reflexes on his home planet. But this was not his home planet. They began slowly. Threxis tried a simple jab with his upper right arm. Daehyun moved his head slightly and the punch missed. Threxis tried with 2 arms at once. Daehyun blocked both with 1 arm. Threxis tried with all 6 arms in a complex attack pattern that had won him championships on his world. Daehyun stepped inside his guard, grabbed 2 of his arms, and gently threw him to the mat. Good try, Daehyun said, helping him up. Your technique is interesting. But you are thinking too much. Just react, they tried again. Threxus focused on reacting instead of planning. He threw a punch without thinking. Daehyun blocked it easily. Threxus threw another block. He threw 6 punches in rapid succession, using all his arms in a desperate flurry. Daehyun caught one arm, redirected another, and somehow used Threxus's own momentum to flip him again. This time, Threxus heard a crack. Pain shot through his lower left arm. Oh no, Daehyun said, immediately stopping. I am sorry. I thought I was being gentle. Gentle. He had broken Threxus's arm while being gentle. The medical staff confirmed the fracture. It would heal in a few weeks with proper treatment. Hyun pulled Daehyun aside for a conversation that Quilara picked up telepathically despite trying not to listen. You need to be more careful, Hyun said. They are not as durable as us. I know, Daehyun replied. I am trying. But they are so fragile, like training with glass sculptures. Glass sculptures. That was how the humans saw them. Fragile decorations that might break if handled roughly. Day 7 arrived and the aliens had reached a new level of exhaustion. Every part of their bodies hurt. Velrath's crystalline structure was held together with emergency repair gel. Threxus had his arm in a medical wrap. Quilara had stopped using her telepathy entirely because every human mind she touched was full of casual contentment that made her want to scream. Lunch that day was particularly harsh to witness. Daehyun sat down across from them with his tray. Today it was some kind of stew that smelled so spicy it made Velrath's sensors water. There were also grilled strips of meat, rice, and a collection of fermented vegetables that looked dangerous. This is my favorite, Daehyun said happily, mixing rice into the stew. My grandmother makes it even spicier, but the cafeteria version is pretty good. He took a bite and smiled. Then he reached for a small bowl of red powder and added more to the stew. Why? Velrath had to ask. Are you adding more spice? It already smells like chemical weapons, Daehyun laughed. This is mild. You should try the stew my friend Jinho makes. Now that will clear your sinuses. He continued eating with obvious enjoyment, occasionally offering to share, which all 3 aliens politely declined. They watched him finish the entire enormous portion, then go back for more rice to soak up the remaining sauce. I have been studying Earth history, Threxus said quietly. Did you know that humans evolved on this planet? They did not colonize it. They are native to this gravity, this atmosphere, this environment. So, Quilara asked, so this is a death world. By all galactic classifications, Earth should be rated as highly dangerous for colonization. The gravity alone makes it unsuitable for most species, yet humans call it home. They think it is normal. Velrath watched Daehyun wipe his bowl clean with the last piece of rice. What does that make the humans? Death world natives, Threxus said simply. We are not training with soldiers. We are training with survivors of a planet that should have killed them. Instead, they thrived. That night, Velrath tried to write his report to the Galactic Council. He sat in his quarters, staring at the blank screen. How could he explain what they were experiencing? How could he make anyone understand? He started typing. Day 7 report. The humans are not what we expected. Their planet is hostile to life by our standards, yet they treat it as comfortable. Their training is designed for their gravity, which makes it impossible for us. The human assigned to us, Daehyun, is classified as average. I am beginning to understand why Earth was so easily accepted into the Galactic Council, despite their primitive technology. It was not mercy. It was fear. He stopped typing. Through his window he could see the human barracks. Week 4 began with a surprise announcement. Hyun gathered everyone in the briefing room, a large screen behind her showing various Earth environments. Mountains, deserts, frozen wastelands, and dense jungles. For the next 2 weeks we will be doing environmental adaptation training, she explained. You will learn to operate in different conditions. This is essential for any military force that might deploy to various planets. Daehyun raised his hand. Which environment first? Desert, we leave tomorrow morning. Pack for 4 days. The aliens exchanged worried looks. They had barely survived the base training. Now they were going somewhere worse? The desert arrived with the sunrise, and it was immediately clear why humans called it hostile. The temperature was already 35 degrees and climbing. The air was so dry it hurt to breathe. Sand stretched in every direction, reflecting light that made Velrath's sensors ache. Daehyun stepped off the transport vehicle wearing light clothing, a wide hat, and a pack that looked half his size. "Beautiful day," he said cheerfully. "Reminds me of summer at my grandmother's farm." "Your grandmother lives in a place like this?" Quilara asked, horrified. No. Her farm is more humid. But the temperature is about the same. Sometimes hotter." He adjusted his pack straps. "Okay, we have a 20-kilometer hike to the first checkpoint. Stay hydrated, 20 kilometers. In this heat." Carrying packs. Velrath wanted to quit right there. They started walking. Within the first kilometer, Velrath noticed his crystalline body expanding from the heat. The molecular structure of his species was not designed for such high temperatures. Cracks were forming faster than his body could repair them. Threxus was doing worse. His homeworld was cold and dry. This heat made him sluggish. His 6 arms hung limply at his sides. His breathing was rapid and shallow. Quilara tried to use her telepathy to stay calm, but the heat was interfering with her concentration. Every human mind she touched was thinking about water, shade, and something called cold noodles that sounded wonderful right now. Daehyun walked at a steady pace, occasionally checking on them but never slowing down. At the 5-kilometer mark, he called for a break. They collapsed in the small shade of some rocks while Daehyun remained standing, barely sweating. "How are you not dying?" Threxus gasped. Daehyun took a small sip from his water bottle. "It is not that bad. Wait until afternoon when it really heats up." He checked his watch. "Should hit 45 degrees around 2 o'clock. "It gets hotter?" Velrath could not believe it. "Sure. This is pretty mild for desert training. In summer we train when it is over 50 degrees. Now that is rough." He smiled like he was talking about a minor inconvenience. "Come on, 15 more kilometers to go." They reached the checkpoint after 6 hours. What should have been a 4-hour hike had taken longer because of constant breaks. The checkpoint was a simple camp with tents and supplies. Other human soldiers were there running drills in the full heat of the afternoon. "Crazy, right?" one of the humans said to Daehyun. "Command actually gave us the afternoon off because it is too hot." "Nice," Daehyun replied. "What is too hot?" 48 degrees. Heat index of 55 with the sun. They were getting the afternoon off because it was merely 48 degrees. The aliens processed this information in stunned silence. Lunch was the worst part. Daehyun sat in his tent, which was somehow even hotter than outside, and opened his pack. He pulled out containers of food. Rice balls wrapped in seaweed, spicy rice cakes that made the air in the tent even more uncomfortable, and a thermos of soup that was still steaming hot. "Why?" Quilara asked weakly. "Are you eating hot soup in the desert?" Daehyun slurped the soup happily. "It is good. Makes you sweat, which cools you down. Plus, my mom packed it for me. Would be rude not to eat it." He ate the entire meal, drinking hot soup in 40-degree heat, while the aliens sipped their temperature-controlled nutrient solutions and wondered if this was all a nightmare they would eventually wake from. The next environment was worse. The Arctic training zone was in the far north, where the temperature dropped to minus 30 degrees at night. Snow covered everything. Wind cut through their protective gear like it was nothing. Daehyun stepped off the transport wearing a heavy coat, boots, and gloves. His breath made clouds in the cold air. Great weather for this. Last time we did Arctic training, it was only minus 20. This will be more realistic. Only minus 20. As if that was somehow disappointing. The cold affected each alien differently. Velrath's crystalline structure became brittle and rigid. Every movement risked shattering something important. Threxus went into a partial hibernation state within the first hour, his body trying to conserve energy. Quilara's telepathy froze along with her thoughts, becoming slow and fuzzy. They were supposed to build shelters, start fires, and survive for 3 days. Daehyun built his shelter in 30 minutes. It was efficient and well-insulated. He started a fire using materials he found nearby. Then he pulled out a small pot and started melting snow. "Making hot water for instant noodles," he explained. "Want some?" Nothing better than ramyeon in the cold. The aliens watched from their emergency heated shelter, the one Huan had provided because it was clear they could not build their own. Daehyun sat by his fire, eating spicy noodles in minus 30-degree weather, looking more comfortable than they were in their heated shelter. "I scanned his mind," Quilara reported through their communication system.
"He is thinking that this is nice and peaceful."
"He wishes he had brought his music player." "Peaceful," Velrath repeated. "He finds this peaceful." The jungle environment was a different kind of terrible. It was hot and humid. The air was thick enough to chew. Everything was wet. Insects swarmed constantly. The aliens quickly learned that Earth had evolved millions of species of bugs, and all of them seemed to be in this jungle. Watch out for snakes, Daehyun warned as they hiked through dense vegetation. Most are harmless, but some are venomous. Most are harmless, Threxus repeated. Most meaning some are harmful. Well, yeah, but you will be fine if you watch where you step. They had been walking for an hour when Velrath saw it. A snake, easily 3 meters long, hanging from a tree branch. It was green and yellow with scales that looked sharp. It was staring at him with cold, unblinking eyes. Velrath froze. His threat assessment systems went into full alert. On his planet, predators this size were rare and extremely dangerous. His training said to remain still and call for help. Oh, that is a python, Daehyun said casually. Pretty one. Look at the color pattern. It is going to attack, Velrath said quietly. Nah, pythons are not aggressive unless you bother them. Just give it space. Daehyun walked past the snake without concern. It did not even move. They continued hiking. Every alien was now hyper-aware of every branch, every leaf, every sound. Earth had predators everywhere, and the humans walked through them like they were in a park. At lunch, Daehyun found a stream. Good fresh water. We can refill our bottles. Is it safe? Quilara asked. Sure. Might want to use purification tablets, but I usually just drink it straight. Builds up immunity. He cupped his hands in the stream and drank. Builds up immunity. The human was intentionally exposing himself to potential pathogens to build resistance. Then Daehyun did something that made all 3 aliens question his sanity. He waded into the stream, reached under a rock with his bare hands, and pulled out a fish. A living, struggling fish that he caught with his bare hands like it was normal. Fresh fish is the best, he said, already preparing to cook it over a small fire he had started. Within minutes, he was grilling the fish and eating it, looking happier than he had all day. Why did you not bring food? Threxus asked. I did. But why eat rations when you can eat fresh? He offered them some fish, which they declined. The ocean dive training was somehow worse than everything else. They had to go underwater into the darkness where unknown things lived. Velrath had read that Earth's oceans were mostly unexplored. Humans did not know what lived in the deep parts of their own planet, yet they dove into it anyway. We will start shallow, Daehyun said, adjusting his diving gear. Only 20 meters today. Only 20 meters. Into the dark water. Full of unknown creatures, Velrath needed pressure assistance at 10 meters. His crystalline body could not handle the water pressure. Threxus needed special equipment at 15 meters. Quilara could not dive at all. Her biology was not compatible with underwater environments. Daehyun dove to 20 meters without assistance. He stayed down for 10 minutes. When he came back up, he was holding a small container. Dropped my lunchbox yesterday at this depth, he explained. Did not want to waste the food. He had free dived to 20 meters to retrieve a lunchbox. Because he did not want to waste food, they surfaced and sat on the boat. Daehyun opened his retrieved lunchbox. Inside was rice, fish, vegetables, and kimchi, all somehow still sealed and preserved despite being underwater for a day. He ate it happily, enjoying the view of the ocean. This is my favorite part of training, he said. The ocean is beautiful, peaceful. Quilara could not help herself. She opened her telepathy and scanned his mind deeply, trying to understand how he could find any of this peaceful. What she found disturbed her more than any physical challenge they had faced. Daehyun's mind was genuinely calm. There was no false bravado, no hidden fear. Week 8 arrived with an announcement that made the aliens want to give up before it even started. Hyewon called it Hell Week, which was somehow both accurate and understated. It was 5 days of continuous training with minimal sleep and maximum stress. The goal, Hyewon explained in the briefing, is to push you past your perceived limits. You will learn what you are truly capable of under pressure. Daehyun was joined by another instructor. Her name was Minseo, and within 5 minutes of meeting her, the aliens realized she was somehow more intense than Daehyun. Where Daehyun was casually competent, Minseo was aggressively efficient. She moved like violence was her first language. Nice to meet you all, Minseo said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I have heard you have been doing well. Let us see what you can really do. Hell Week started at midnight. No warning, just alarms blaring and lights flashing. They had 30 seconds to get dressed and report outside. Velrath made it in 45 seconds. Threxus needed 60. Quilara stumbled out at 75 seconds, still half asleep. Too slow, Minseo said. Drop and give me 20 push-ups. Push-ups in full Earth gravity. After being woken from dead sleep, Velrath managed 3 before his arms gave out. Threxus got to 5 using all 6 arms. Quilara could not do a single one. All right, let us start with a run to wake up, Daehyun said like this was completely reasonable. 10 kilometers. We need to finish in under an hour, they ran. Or rather, Daehyun and Minseo ran while the aliens struggled along behind them. The humans were having a conversation while running, discussing something about food and restaurants. They were not even breathing hard. The 10 kilometers took 2 hours because the aliens needed constant breaks. Daehyun and Minseo never complained. They just waited patiently, chatting about their favorite dishes and whether the new fried chicken place downtown was worth the price. When they finally finished, there was no break. Immediately into combat drills. Hand-to-hand fighting, weapons practice, tactical maneuvers, all while exhausted from the run. All in crushing gravity that made every movement 3 times harder than it should be. Lunch was not really lunch. It was 5 minutes to eat ration bars while standing. Daehyun and Minseo ate 3 bars each and drank water. The aliens could barely choke down their nutrient solutions. How are you feeling? Daehyun asked, genuinely concerned. Dying, Velrath said honestly. You are doing great, Minseo said. This is the hardest part. Once you push through, it gets easier. It did not get easier. By hour 36, Velrath was hallucinating. His crystalline structure was developing cracks faster than it could repair. His vision was fragmenting, showing multiple overlapping images. He thought he saw his home planet, but it was just the ceiling of the training room. Threxus was worse. His calculation abilities had shut down completely. When asked to count to 10, he could not remember what came after 6. His 6 arms moved independently, no longer coordinated by his conscious mind. Quilara's telepathy had gone haywire. She was picking up thoughts from everyone within a kilometer. Human minds, alien minds, even some animals. It was overwhelming. She had stopped trying to filter it out. Everything was noise. At hour 40, they had a meal break. 15 whole minutes to eat. Velrath sat down and immediately fell asleep. Daehyun gently woke him. You need to eat something, he said kindly. Keep your energy up. Velrath looked at Daehyun with his fractured vision. The human looked tired, actually tired for the first time since they had met. There were dark circles under his eyes. His movements were slightly slower. He was finally showing signs of being human. Then Velrath looked at what Daehyun was eating. A full meal. Rice, meat, vegetables, and soup. The same portions as always. And Daehyun was eating at his normal speed, not rushing despite having only 15 minutes. How are you eating that much? Velrath asked. Hungry, Daehyun replied simply. We have been training for 40 hours. Need fuel. You look tired. Yeah, a bit. But not too bad, he smiled. This is actually easier than last year's Hell Week. That one was in summer with full heat. Last year's was harder. This nightmare had a worse version. Minseo sat down next to Daehyun with her own tray. She had the same amount of food plus extra rice. Did you hear? Command is thinking about adding a swimming component next year. Oh, that would be nice, Daehyun said. More variety. They were planning to make it harder. On purpose. Because it would be nice. At hour 60, they had a combat simulation. Live fire exercises with rubber bullets. The aliens' reaction times were down to almost nothing. Quilara got hit immediately because she was too tired to move. Threxus got hit 7 times because he kept forgetting which arms he was using. Velrath got hit 3 times before he realized the simulation had started. Daehyun and Minseo moved through the course like machines. Tired machines, yes, but still functional. They took hits but kept moving. When a rubber bullet hit Daehyun in the ribs, he grunted in pain but did not stop. Later, Quilara saw the bruise. It was dark purple and covered half his side. He never mentioned it. You are hurt, she said, just a bruise. It will heal in a few days. He stretched carefully. Could be worse. Last month, Junho broke 2 ribs in training. He still finished the exercise. Why did he finish? He was injured. Daehyun looked at her like the question did not make sense. Because quitting was not an option. The mission does not stop because you are hurt. Mission. There was no mission. This was training. But to the humans, training was the mission. At hour 72, they reached the psychological warfare segment. They were placed in stress positions and questioned by instructors. The goal was to resist giving information. The aliens broke in minutes. They would have told the instructors anything to make it stop. Daehyun lasted 4 hours. Quilara monitored it telepathically, too tired to stop herself. For 4 hours, Daehyun sat in an uncomfortable position, being questioned. Loud noises playing, lights flashing. His mind remained focused on one thing, food. He was thinking about food, wondering if dinner would be the spicy pork dish or the grilled beef, hoping there would be good side dishes, considering whether to get seconds or save room for dessert. 4 hours of psychological torture, and his primary concern was the cafeteria menu. When they finally released him, Daehyun stood up stiffly and asked, "Is it dinner time? I am really hungry." The final event of Hell Week was a 24-hour continuous operation, all the previous activities combined. Running, climbing, swimming, combat, navigation, problem-solving, all while carrying full gear and operating on no sleep for over 90 hours. Velrath collapsed at hour 2. His crystalline body simply gave up. He could not move. Medical staff had to carry him to the recovery area. Threxus made it to hour 5 before his biology forced a shutdown. He went into full hibernation mode. His body protected itself by turning off everything except basic life functions. Quilara lasted until hour 8. She was crying, though she did not remember starting. Everything hurt. Her telepathy was gone, burned out from exhaustion. She could not remember her own name. When they asked if she wanted to quit, she said yes without hesitation. She was taken to the medical area where Velrath and Threxus were already recovering. Through the window, they could see the course. Daehyun and Minseo were still going. Still running, still fighting, still completing objectives. "How long has it been?" Velrath asked weakly. 98 hours since Hell Week started, a medical technician answered. They should finish in about 6 more hours, 6 more hours. The humans would complete 104 hours of continuous operations. The aliens had not made it to 24. They watched through the window as the sun rose. Daehyun and Minseo crossed the finish line together. Both were covered in mud, sweat, and minor injuries. Both were exhausted. Both were smiling. Hyun met them at the finish line with bottles of water and protein bars. "Well done. Go get cleaned up and rest. You have earned it." "Thanks," Daehyun said. His voice was hoarse from dehydration. "Is the cafeteria open? I am starving. Should be serving breakfast now." "Perfect," he turned to Minseo. "Want to grab food before showering?" "Definitely. I could eat a whole cow." They walked toward the cafeteria, moving slowly but still under their own power. After over 100 hours of Hell Week, they were going to eat before even cleaning up. Food was the priority. In the medical area, the aliens received a visit from Hyun. She looked concerned but not surprised. "I'm sorry the training was too much," she said. "We tried to adjust it for your capabilities." "This was adjusted?" Threxus asked weakly. "Of course. Normal Hell Week is 7 days, not 5. And we removed several of the more difficult challenges." 7 days. They had removed the difficult challenges. What they experienced was the easy version. "Why do you train like this?" Quilara asked. "What enemy could possibly require such preparation?" Hyun was quiet for a moment. "Earth has been at war with itself for most of our history. Different nations, different groups, always fighting. We learned to train our soldiers for the absolute worst conditions because those conditions happened regularly. It is not about preparing for a specific enemy. It is about being ready for anything." "You fight yourselves," Velrath said slowly. "Humans fight other humans in conditions like this." "Fought," Hyun corrected. "Past tense mostly. We are more united now. But the training remains. It is effective." The final week arrived faster than the aliens expected. 12 weeks had passed since they landed on Earth. 12 weeks of training that had pushed them beyond anything they thought possible. They had survived, though barely. Their bodies were covered in scars, repairs, and medical treatments. But they had survived. Hyun gathered everyone for the final assessment briefing. The room was full of human soldiers and the 3 aliens who looked very small and fragile by comparison. "The final assessment is simple," Hyun explained. "A 50-kilometer march with full gear, followed by a tactical scenario ending with a physical fitness test. Complete all 3 components and you graduate. 50 kilometers, with gear." After 12 weeks of the hardest training they had ever experienced, Velrath wanted to laugh, but his translator might interpret it as crying. "You will be graded on a curve," Hyun continued. "We understand your species have different capabilities. All we ask is that you give your best effort." A curve. They were being graded on a curve because the instructors knew they could not possibly match human standards. The march began at dawn. Daehyun led the group with his usual cheerful demeanor. His pack looked like it weighed as much as Kulara's entire body. He carried it like it was empty. "Beautiful morning for a walk," he said, breathing in the cool air. "Not too hot, not too cold, perfect." The aliens started walking. The weight of their packs was crushing, but they had learned to manage it over the past weeks. Velrath's crystalline body had adapted somewhat to Earth's gravity. The constant microfractures had forced his structure to grow stronger. Threxus had learned to coordinate his 6 arms properly in the heavy gravity. Quilara had trained her telepathy to function even under physical stress. They were not human-level competent, but they were better than when they arrived. The march took 8 hours. Daehyun walked the entire distance while chatting with other soldiers. Minseo jogged past them twice, doing extra distance because she felt good today. The aliens focused on putting one foot in front of the other, over and over until the 50 kilometers were done. When they finished, Velrath expected a break. Instead, they immediately moved to the tactical scenario. They had to navigate through a simulated combat zone, complete objectives, and extract safely. It was everything they had learned compressed into 2 hours of intense activity. Velrath led his team using crystalline strategic thinking. Threxus calculated optimal paths and timing. Quilara used her telepathy to coordinate their movements. They worked together, using their unique abilities to compensate for their physical limitations. They completed the scenario. Not perfectly, not quickly, but they completed it. The human evaluators nodded and made notes. No comments, just notes. The final component was the physical fitness test. Running, push-ups, obstacle course. Everything they had been doing for 12 weeks one last time. Velrath ran the required distance slower than any human but faster than his first day. His crystalline body held together under the stress. He completed the required push-ups, all 20 of them, without breaking. He navigated the obstacle course in under an hour. Threxus and Quilara did the same. They were exhausted, damaged, and barely functional. But they finished. Daehyun waited at the finish line with water and encouraging words. "Well done. You should be proud." "This was not easy. Did we pass?" Velrath asked, too tired to care about formality. "You will find out at the graduation ceremony tomorrow." Daehyun smiled. "But between you and me, I think you did great." The graduation ceremony was formal. Flags, uniforms, speeches. Representatives from the Galactic Council attended via hologram. Hewan presented certificates to all the graduates, human and alien alike. "These 3 individuals," she said, gesturing to Velrath, Threxus, and Quilara, "have shown remarkable dedication and adaptability. They completed a training program designed for a species evolved in conditions very different from their own. They have earned our respect and this certificate of completion." Applause filled the room. The aliens stood awkwardly, not sure how to respond. They had passed, but it felt hollow. They had been graded on a curve. Accommodations had been made. They had not truly matched the humans. After the ceremony, there was a feast. It was a tradition, Daehyun explained. After completing major training, everyone ate together. The cafeteria had prepared a massive spread of Korean food. Grilled meats, rice, dozens of side dishes, soups, and desserts. Daehyun loaded his tray with everything. Galbi, bulgogi, kimchi, rice, bean paste stew, and at least 8 different vegetable dishes. He grabbed a bottle of something called soju from a cooler that Hewan was monitoring carefully. The aliens took their usual nutrient packs and sat at a table near the corner. They watched the humans celebrate. Loud conversations, laughter, music playing from speakers. It was joyful and warm. So different from the military formality they were used to. Daehyun approached their table, his tray piled high. "Mind if I sit?" "Please," Velrath said. Daehyun sat down and immediately started eating. He ate with the same enthusiasm he always had, like food was the most important thing in the world. Between bites he talked. "You know, when they told me I would be training alien soldiers, I was nervous. I thought, what if I cannot relate to them? What if I mess up and make things worse?" He ate some rice and kimchi. "But you 3 were great, really. You worked hard and never gave up." "We failed constantly," Threxus said bluntly. "So? Failure is part of training? The point is not to be perfect. The point is to improve." He dipped meat in sauce and wrapped it in lettuce. "You 3 improved more than any human I have trained. You started with nothing and ended up completing the full program. That is impressive. We were graded on a curve," Quilara pointed out. Sure, but that does not make it less real. You think human training is the only valid measurement of capability? Daehyun gestured with his chopsticks. You all have abilities we do not have. Velrath's strategic thinking is way better than mine. Threx's can calculate things in his head that would take me hours with a computer. Quilara can coordinate teams telepathically, which we can only dream of. You are not worse than humans. You are different. He continued eating, completely focused on his meal now. The aliens watched him pile food into his mouth with genuine happiness. After 12 weeks, they had learned something important about Daehyun. Food was not just fuel for him. It was comfort, culture, connection. Every meal was a moment of peace in a hard world. Can I ask you something? Velrath said. Sure, Daehyun replied, mouth half full. Why do humans train so hard? What are you preparing for? Daehyun swallowed and thought about it. Honestly, I am not sure. It is just what we do. My grandfather was a soldier. My father was a soldier. They trained hard, so I train hard. It is tradition. He poured himself some soju. But also, Earth has always been difficult. Natural disasters, resource scarcity, conflicts. We learned that if you are not prepared, you suffer. So we prepare for everything, even things that might never happen. You train for hypothetical threats, Threxus calculated. That is inefficient. Maybe. But it means we are ready when real threats appear. He drank the soju in one shot and immediately made a face. Oh, this batch is strong. Minseo joined them. Her tray just as full as Daehyun's. She sat down and started eating without preamble. So, she said between bites, what are you three doing after this? Returning to our homeworlds, Quilara answered. Filing reports with our respective governments. What will you say about Earth? Minseo asked. The three aliens exchanged looks. What would they say? How could they explain what they had experienced? The truth, Velrath decided, that humans are adapted to extreme conditions, that your training is designed for worst-case scenarios, that your species should be respected and possibly feared. Feared? Daehyun looked surprised. We are not that scary. You are terrifying, Quilara said flatly. You just do not realize it. Daehyun and Minseo laughed. Actually laughed. They thought it was a joke. If you say so, Minseo said, going back to her food. Hey, did you try the special dessert? They made the good stuff for graduation. The conversation shifted to food and weekend plans. Daehyun mentioned he was taking leave to visit his grandmother's farm. Minseo was thinking about applying to special forces. Normal, casual conversation between soldiers after a ceremony. The aliens excused themselves and went outside. The sun was setting, painting Earth's sky in colors that were actually quite beautiful. They stood together in silence for a moment. We survived, Threxus said finally. We did, Velrath confirmed. Barely, but we did. I am never coming back to this planet, Quilara stated. Once was enough for a lifetime. They watched the sunset. Inside, the celebration continued. Loud, joyful human. 6 months later, Velrath sat in the Galactic Council chambers. He was presenting his report on the Earth Training Exchange program. The council members listened with skepticism clear on their various faces and appendages. You are saying that humans are a threat? One council member asked. Not a threat, a force. Humans are adapted to conditions we would classify as hostile. Their planet is a death world by our standards, yet they thrive there. Their training is designed to push beyond normal limits. They have centuries of practice at surviving impossible situations. And your recommendation? Another council member asked. Earth should be classified as a restricted zone.